Hey, cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. I think there are some new viewers, and the new viewers that I'm going to have are the ones that have been in this race, some of them. So I'm going to catch you up a bit. I am 65 years old. I have been subject to Afib attacks for about 4 years now. My weight listed in Zwift is 163 pounds, and this morning I weighed 163.8. So that's about 74.3 kilograms. So if you see 300 watts in the upper left-hand corner, that means I'm going about 4 watts per kilogram. I'm riding on an old, noisy dumb trainer that I'm using an ANT to Bluetooth converter on. I'm using an 1121 in the back and a 55 tooth chainring. I am also signed up on ZwiftPower.com. After they forced upgraded me to a Category B, I spent a lot of time getting dropped in the first lap of these races. Each race I would improve. On my last race, it was my best race in the Category Bs up to that point, and I actually lost contact with the main group somewhere in the 6th of 8 laps. I like to do the 8-lap crits and not the 12-lap crits because I'm Afib boy, and it serves me better. Before we talk about what I did to get stronger and improve in each race, let's talk about this race. From the first lap, this pack seemed like one of the strongest legal packs that I've been in the Category Bs. I say legal based on ZwiftPower.com's definition of a Category B rider. Even though I had 4 placings higher in ZwiftPower.com compared to Zwift, it wasn't because there were any sandbagging A's in there. Those 4 racers simply had not signed up for ZwiftPower.com. Something I recommend for everybody that does Zwift. What's enabled me to keep up with these guys is the strength that I've gained recently through my training. More specifically, my muscular endurance. So far in this race, I've been able to push big watts, or what's for me big watts, to stay up with these guys. Throughout the race, you'll notice that I try to stay up toward the front just as a buffer. When there's an attack and it lines out, or I lose contact with the wheel in front of me, then I just keep pushing that big gear, and now I'm able to push it longer and just keep at it. Here's one such situation. We have a person that's trying to get away in the front, and we have some other riders that are bridging up to him, and now there's a gap. And I'm just keeping at it, hoping that the others in front of me fill in that gap, and this time they have. Now, I can't obviously keep up this wattage this whole race, so I apply a technique that seems to work out well for me, that probably everyone does too, I just have named it. It's called riding the fine line between aerobic and anaerobic death. For this race, that means I'm pushing that big gear for as long as I can until I start to get bogged down, and then I shift down to an easier gear, spinning that until I start to redline. Then I go back to the bigger gear. Actually, that technique I apply on longer climbs on the road when I'm trying to stay up with faster climbers. I spin as fast as I can, I'll start to redline, I'll go to the bigger gear, give myself a little bit of a rest, and I'm able to maintain the speed, maybe go a little faster in that bigger gear, then I'll get bogged down like I was saying, and then I'd have to go back to the smaller gear again. Now in this crit, what actually happens is that the bigger gear is my friend. And I use that to survive those crunch times, whatever form those crunch times take. And then when I'm able to get back in the pack or get to where I want to in the pack or get to that survival point, I'm able to go to that smaller gear, and that gives me a little bit of a rest. Now this pack is so strong where I can't rest very long, and sometimes it's just a few pedal strokes in a smaller gear. So far, using this technique relative to my abilities has been working out for me. On the screen, there's yet another surge, and now a gap. And now I'm having to fill the gap. So pretty much, if you're looking at my wattage up there, I'm in the 4 point somethings. And fortunately, I was able to connect. My momentum kind of took me to the front, but I dialed back on my wattage and also on my gearing so I can get a little bit of a rest. Now they're coming back up again, so hopefully I am shifting my gears back up again. And now we're in the roller section. I definitely need to go to that bigger gear. And I'm using this new power-up, which I had never seen before, and from what I gathered from what it says, that I'm not a draft. Now, I don't know why they have a power-up like that, because we don't have that type of situation on the road. Maybe you can make the argument that if you're a bigger guy and there's a smaller guy in front of you, then your draft is diminished, but I could do without this one. Looks like we had an attack coming out of the rollers, and now they're just keeping on that pace. So fortunately, I am behind someone's wheel, and I'm using that big gear right now, and I'm probably hurting. If you're looking at the heart rate in the upper left-hand corner, that 155 there, that is right about my 95% of my max. I think it's like 155 and a half, so 155, 156. So I am now pretty much getting close to my edge. Therefore, there are factors I have to keep in mind even in my hypoxic state. Now we're crossing over and we officially finished the first half of the race, and I'm mindful that for quite a while it was hard for me to get through the first half of the race, staying connected with the pack. All right, back to the things I need to keep in mind. The first is positioning. I need to have that buffer. I need to place myself toward the front of the pack. That is getting now easier to say than to do. The next item is another easier said than done thing. Energy conservation. I need to stay on people's wheels and not let a little gap open up. Not get that little message up there that says, oh, you have 2 meters to close the gap. Like what I'm seeing right now. Okay, back on a wheel. The little triangle there on top of that rider, I think that denotes that this is really a person that should be in the category A's. There may be a better explanation, so if there is, please put it in the comments below. Looking at that rider's numbers for this race, that rider produced 278 watt average and 4.7 watts per kilogram. The way ZwiftPower.com works is they'll take that 4.7 and multiply it by 95%, and then take that 278 watts and multiply that by 95%. And if the combination is above 4.1 watts per kilogram and 250 watts, then they'll say that you're supposed to be in the category A's. Well, that's ZwiftPower.com. Now, this is Zwift doing it, so it may be that there's some sort of joint venture now with ZwiftPower.com, or it could be, and this may be the case from what I remember, at least I believe I remember hearing before, is that Zwift purchased ZwiftPower.com. If anybody knows about that one, please put that one in the comments below too. Back to the action on the screen. We have now just left the rolling section of the 6th of 8 laps, which is where I lost contact in my last crit. And so now we're stretched out. I'm on someone's wheel. There's a gap. Exactly the place I don't want to be. So I just keep pushing it. Now I've had to back off for a bit, and then some people got in front of me, so now I'm on a wheel, kind of. Now maybe I'm not on that wheel, but I'm still pushing that big gear. I'm doing about 300 watts, and I've been maintaining that. The gap is there. I'm still not claiming that I'm dropped yet. So I still got some game in me. And it looks like that we're making contact. Thank you to whoever that is in front of me. Salazar, I think it is. Okay, so we're stretched out, but I am connected, but I got that stupid close the gap thing. I need 1 more meter and okay, thank goodness, there I am. Even though my momentum may take me off the front now, I've already dialed back in my gearing and my wattage. That last effort brought my heart rate up to 95%. To say I'm trying to rest as best as I can now is an understatement. And now we're hitting the rollers. I got 2 laps. I got this rollers and then 1 more set of rollers. I'm now at the back and I'm trying to hang on. I'm still trying to recover from the previous effort. I noticed that when I'm looking at the graphics on the far right hand side, that there is a 13-second gap to the group or the person behind us. So that means there's about 14, maybe 15 of us in this group. 14 of us, and I'm the 14th right now. And again, I recognize that I'm in danger of a big surge coming and me not being able to keep up with it. But I'm pushing those watts, and I'm here, and so I'm going to try and stay here. I'm back up to 4 watts per kilogram, and I'm at the back. Thank goodness everyone's conserving, and that lets me get a little buffer by moving up toward the front. But that's going to be short-lived. At the back again. It's getting harder to get back up to 4.0, and it's getting even harder to be able to maintain that. I'm shifting up to even bigger gears in hopes of accomplishing those bigger numbers until I need to dial back down again. I'm now starting to experience the business end of the fine line between aerobic and anaerobic death. We just lapped somebody. I've never lapped somebody before. I'm usually the person that's been lapped. And here's a new experience. I'm still with the pack, and it's the last lap. Yeah, I'm at the back again. We got the rollers. I'm trying to get a little bit of buffer. It's getting harder to get to that 300 watts right now for me. but everyone else is resting, and so I'm sort of resting too, at least not going as hard. There's a little bit of a difference there. It is now 1.5K to go, and I have a ghost power-up. What good is a ghost power-up going to do me against these guys? And now, stretched out, there's a big gap. I'm pushing wattage, but oh, there you go. I kind of hit 300 once. But now I'm starting to look at the graphics on the right-hand side and see that there's somebody about 15 seconds behind me. Actually, there's somebody that was dropped with me, so now he's in back of me. And I think we're going to be trying to work together here. At least that's the intent, but you know, it's the last lap. Nobody's anybody's friend. Now, with half a K to go in this situation, that ghost power-up is looking pretty good. So I start it up, I jump away, and now I'm just trying to stay away from the guy. I'm seeing that he's now 8 meters behind me, 7 meters, 6. Oh man, he's starting to catch up. The finish line is just around this corner here, 5 meters. I am dying right here. And now my heart rate is up to about 97%, and boom, I made it to the finish line before he can catch me. There were 26 starters. I ended up in 14th and only 17 seconds in back of the winner. I've usually been well over a minute in back of the winner, so this is pretty cool for me. In the description below, I will link one of my recent videos on my current training plan focused on and off the bike leg strength building. I have no doubt that that is what enabled me to do as well as I did against these strong riders today. All right, you know the drill. Comment, like, subscribe. The Cycling Greek.